Would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Morton Davis, Morty Davis, and I am chairman of the board of the Jewish Orthodox what's the name of or the Orthodox Jewish Chamber of Commerce.
Yes, we. It's okay. We're gonna be fine. Can you? No,
I'm chairman of.
it's okay. I'm sure you're doing so many organizations, and folks will forgive you. Can you talk about you and who you are and how did you get here?
Yeah. So early on in life, I was the biggest loser. Fortunately, I found my way back. I went back to night school at night after I dropped out of school at 14. And then I graduated from a school in Brooklyn called Central Girls High. At night it was co-ed, but my diploma says Central Girls High.
Wall Street, so you must.
No, but my children and grandchildren want to know if I'm a transvestite because it says Central Girls High. They said, Daddy, how did you go to Central Girls High when you were a man? So I have to explain to them. At night it was co-ed. And then I went to Brooklyn College and graduated top of my class. I graduated, I already had 3 kids. And then I was fortunate that I went to Harvard Business School and I graduated with distinction, the top of the class at Harvard. And then I came to Wall Street, and through good fortune and creativity and very hard work, I became president of a company that was established in 1904 called D.H. Blair. And over the course of the past 30 years or 40 years or whatever number of years it is already, I took 400 companies, young companies, early stage companies, mostly startups, 400 companies for which I raised $3 billion and created thousands and tens of thousands of jobs. When I gave a guy a check, the very next day, not a year later, not a month later, they were out hiring people and buying capital equipment. True capitalism. I've been a big supporter of presidents of both parties. I've been active in political. I didn't run for office, but I've had a lot of good conversations and the ability to influence legislation that's been positive, including legislation that encourages people to invest in new young companies that create jobs. In addition, I continue to do venture capital investments, helping young entrepreneurs get off the ground. And most importantly, this organization, the Orthodox Jewish Chamber of Commerce, is just one of the most remarkable. I don't take on new assignments, but Duvi Honig, who's the head of it, who's the inspirational leader, I just am appointed chairman to be helpful, but he's really sacrifices his life. He gives all his time so that he doesn't have time to make a living for his own family. He spends all his life creating jobs for others and helping young men and young women start their own companies. And I can't think of anything more worthwhile or more rewarding or more helpful to the community, not only the Jewish community, but communities throughout the world. We get the cooperation of state governments, federal governments, to do this kind of work. And it's just so gratifying, satisfying to see what this organization does to help others get off their feet. You know, we literally practice what Maimonides said was the most important charity, and that is help a man to get a job. If you teach a man to fish, if you give a man a fish, you teach him, you help him for one day. If you teach him how to fish, you give him something worthwhile for a lifetime. You give him parnasa for a lifetime. You give him income for a lifetime. That's what we do.
What is the future for you? You're such an accomplished person, and you have a wonderful family. You have built quite a few businesses in your lifetime. What do you want to do now? What is the next plan for you? Like you have quite a bit of what people have. What do you want to do now?
Well, I was brought up very poor. I didn't have when I got married, I had $10. So I could identify with all these people that are struggling. So I'm not poor anymore. And a long time ago, I could have retired and lived a great life and gone out on yachts and buy my own airplane and do all the things that rich people do. My goal after that was just help build medical organizations, health organizations, and educational institutions, and I've done a lot of that.
Folks,
So my role in life is to help people do better and to make it a better world. That's all I could hope to do, and I only work so I could make some more money to do those good things.
that's wonderful. Is there any advice that you can give to the folks who are starting their life on Wall Street, which is quite ruthless and tough, and there are so many major banks and nowadays that are controlling the how they can build a new glamour on the Wall Street right now? If someone graduates from Harvard, they're not looking to work on Wall Street. They're not looking to banks. They're looking at Google or Facebook or technology, interesting companies that where the life takes place. How the Wall Street can lure the talent and the inspiration of the best minds from the best institutions. For example, yesterday, I don't know if you saw a lot of big scandal took place with the colleges when so many parents paid bribes to have their kids in colleges. How the Wall Street can restore that honor and be honorable institution, even since 2008, when the collapse of market took place, a lot of trust did not come back. Even though market came back quite well, still people are quite cautious.
Well, the fact is that the best way for upward mobility, the best advice I can give young people is get an education or get a career. That's the most important thing in terms of helping yourself. Then Who's Who asked me years ago, what's my favorite statement? And it's the same one that Ronald Reagan quoted me as saying, the harder you work, the luckier you get. So my success came from hard work, not my brilliance, but just really hard work. There's always major disappointments. There's always letdowns. But if you don't give up, if you don't agree that you ever failed, then they asked Edison, supposedly he failed 1,000 times before he invented the light bulb. And they said, how did you keep it up after you failed so many times, 1,000 times, and still work at it? He says, I never failed once. They said, what do you mean? It took 1,000 times you failed, you said, before it succeeded. He said, 1,000 times I've succeeded in finding out what didn't work, what didn't work. That each time it was a success that got closer to the ultimate achievement. And that's what you got to do. You got to, after you're knocked down, get up and then go at it again. And ultimately, if you won't be beat, you'll succeed. And so my best advice to you is work hard. Find something you love, ideally, because then it's not work. Mark Twain said, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. I see people that lead tragic lives because they hate what they do. Their job is terrible, and you spend most of your time on your job. The rest of the time you're sleeping, you're eating, you're brushing your teeth, you're doing the things you have to do. So if you're waking hours, most of your life is your job, right? So when they hate their jobs, they sit there at work and they look, is it 5 o'clock yet? Can I go home? Or they're getting ulcers because they're so aggravated they hate what they do. And the people that love what they do, I couldn't wait to come in the morning. I didn't want to leave at night, even though there was plenty of aggravation and disappointments that go with a career like mine. But in the end, I felt I was accomplishing something. The cumulative effect was very rewarding. So I'm saying, always think of optimistically and positively.
May I ask you one more question? I'm a Jew and you're a Jew, and I'm on Wall Street in some way, and you also like represent Wall Street. What is the distinction between WASP money and like a Christian philosophy in Wall Street and the Jewish minds? There are so many major Jewish minds that shape the Wall Street and the financial system in the world. Is there any distinction that you can say, okay, that company led by a Jewish philosophy and it's moved with Jewish values, or this is the just a company? Like, do you see the difference when there is a finance that been done by a Jewish person or organization?
Well, it's not by accident that the Jews are an infinitesimal people in the world. Some people, you ask them, how many Jews do you think there are in the world? And they say 1 billion, 2 billion. They can't believe that, and it's hard to believe that we shouldn't count. Nobody should notice us. There's maybe 14 million Jews in the world, and that includes assimilated Jews and Jews that have they're more secular than Jewish. But notwithstanding, they seem to achieve major milestones. The Jews have relatively won more Nobel Prizes than any other group, much larger. Israel's a tiny country. It makes major impacts.
Israel actually doesn't have that many Nobel laureates, which is quite surprising to me. There are so many Jewish Nobel winners, but around the world, but not from that many from Israel.
Well, that's because it's a young country, and they will do it. But I'll tell you, interestingly, the Arab world and the Muslim world, the Jews, I don't remember exactly, but I think over time we got maybe 750 or more Nobel Prizes. And in the most important areas, in medicine, in physics, in chemistry, and math, and economics. No, so let me tell you, that contrast, there's 1,400,000,000 Muslims. You know how many the Muslims and the Arabs got? About, how much do you think they got? I think it's 5. And 5 out of 5, I don't think one of them is in medicine. I don't believe any is in physics. I know one is by a Persian novelist out of Iran. One is by, I think, another novelist out of Egypt. I think one might have something to do with math or science. And 2 are related directly to Israel. Okay. You know who the 2 are? Anwar Sadat got the Peace Prize, the Nobel Peace Prize, and Arafat got the Nobel, both because of their relationship with Israel. So while they didn't get any themselves, they got the 2 for the Arab and the Muslim world. So what's the secret of the Jew? And why? Look, when I was, one of the reasons I dropped out of school when I was 14 was I hated religion, I hated Judaism, I hated school, I hated God, because it was the height of the Depression. My rabbis were all newly arrived from Russia and Poland, very frustrated. They were learning the language, making very low income. They used to beat me up, so I hated them. My father was newly arrived from Hungary. He couldn't get a job. He was religious. He wouldn't work on Saturday. In those days, you had to work on Saturday to get a job. He had his own pushcart. That was his business on the Lower East Side. And he beat me up out of frustration and out of hard times. And then a lot of the... don't think you beat your kids. No, I don't. Once I did, and I'll never do it again. But... and then, for some reason, I don't know, I wore a skull cap, and some of the Christian kids used to beat me up saying I killed Jesus. And I didn't know who Jesus was because at my Hebrew parochial school, at my yeshiva, they didn't mention him, so I didn't know. But I thought they had the wrong kid. But notwithstanding that, the first 14 years I thought I was a punching bag. And I didn't enjoy any part of it because I went to school from 9 to 7 every day, including Sunday. So, and the next block was a public school, and they got out at 2:30, and they were playing ball, and I never had a chance to play ball. I got off early on Friday, but Friday, as you know, in the winter, we got out at 1 o'clock, and I had to get ready for the Sabbath, take a shower, get ready. So I never had a chance. I hated it. But no, let me just tell you the punchline. The one thing that I hated the learning. The one thing that they inculcated in me was the respect for learning. The highest form of serving God in Judaism is not prayer. Higher than prayer is education, learning, sitting and learning, and finding a mate that you sit and learn with. And so that's why, on my own volition, that stuck with me. And in those days, all the three best schools in New York were Stuyvesant, Bronx High School of Science, and I think Brooklyn Tech. And the best kids, the top kids in all those schools were Jewish. Do you know today who the top kids in all those schools are? Asian. And you know why? Because they have they teach them the same thing. Education. A girl, some years ago, a Chinese girl committed suicide in Queens. You know why? Because she got a B. She committed suicide.
We have to wrap up.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to hear more from this outstanding gentleman, comment and
Give me a call
well,
if you need help raising money for
thank you.
businesses. Take care. Bye-bye.